You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hey there, welcome to episode 237 of the Soul Forge podcast.
Welcome to the Soul Forge, a place of silent mystery, quiet contemplation, and outright mayhem. Join your host, Sean Vanderloo, as he guides you through the adventures of living. Together, we'll talk about life and love, sex and dating, joy and heartache, memories and loss, and so much more. Don't worry, it's not nearly as pretentious as it sounds. Get ready for life, the universe, and everything on the Soul Forge.
Hey gang, welcome back to another exciting and fantastic episode of the Soul Forge. So glad you're aboard. What are we talking about this week? Well, as I promised not too long ago, I was thinking about 22 tips to dominate 2022. Make it yours. And why? Why didn't I do this for the first week of the year? Well, that's a good question. Because as I'm recording, we're about 4 weeks into 2022. And, well, like I said, I wasn't feeling my best, but I'm back to normal, maybe? I don't know. Maybe 75% of normal operating parameters. I don't know. But 4 weeks into the new year, 87% of us have failed our New Year's resolutions if we've made them. That's a statistic I just made up, but we'll go with 87%. So we're 4 weeks in. It's almost February. You can still dominate this year, even though a month has already passed. What did I do? Well, just before recording, I looked up just random, some I made up, some I found online, some I had saved in my photo roll on my phone, and I've come up with 22 tips, 22 guidelines, 22 rules to rule 2022. Now, as it says in the opening monologue of the podcast, let Sean be your guide through the adventures of living. And if you've been listening for the last 200 and so odd episodes, you know that I've made a right mess of my life at certain times. But I'm improving every little bit. Sometimes I fall back, and sometimes I go forward, and sometimes I'm stagnant. But I do what I can. And this whole podcast really is about helping the listeners. It's also about helping myself. Also a documentation of my life's journey for my son when he gets older and actually cares about these kinds of things. But basically, I just want to help people. So I've got 22 rules to make 2022 yours. See, I'm going to do that a lot. I'm going to just call it the year 22, I guess. But it's 2022. It's hard to say. I don't know why, but it is. 2021 was easy, but 2022 is just too many twos, I guess. So what are we doing? Well, I've written down on this piece of paper here. You can hear it. It's my little notepad booklet thing of point form bullet notes that I take, usually when I'm doing a podcast. So I've got 22 of them for you, and I guess we'll just get into it. Some I will explain in detail. Some I'll just leave as is. I've only written down the rule itself, nothing more. I'll just do a stream of consciousness because that's always fun, especially making things up and trying to figure stuff out and, all that good stuff. So before we begin, I hope everybody out there in podcast land is doing well. Have you taken the time to leave a 5-star review in the podcatcher of your choice for the podcast? It helps. I guess it helps the algorithm. I'm not really sure. But the more people know about the podcast, the happier I'll be. And don't you want a happy host? I would think so. Because if I'm miserable all the time, that's not fun. Unless you get your kicks off of listening to people be miserable, because then that makes you feel better. That's a thing. I know lots of people like that. Well, no, not lots, but some. Too many, I guess. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So leave a 5-star review in the podcatcher of your choice. Go to YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's just under my name. And we'll go from there. Let's get into it. I was actually listening to a mini podcast about 22 tips on how to deal with laziness, but that wasn't really what I wanted to talk about. But that'll be my first rule. Laziness is a sign that we need to take a break.
Give me a break, give me a break. Break me off a piece of that.
Break me off a piece of that.
Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar.
And the whole podcast was basically about that. So that's rule number 1, or guidepost, I guess. It's not really a rule. I don't know what it is, but it's a tip. Just remember that laziness is a sign that you need to take a break because your body is tired, you're exhausted, and you don't need to be productive 100% of the time. You're a person, you're allowed to take a rest. So do that. You can be lazy once in a while to recuperate and rest. They actually say resting is not laziness, it's necessary. So this is officially your permission to indulge in laziness from time to time to recoup your energy and rest up. So that's rule number 1. I don't know if I'm going to call them rules or tips or guideposts. I'm probably going to be interchangeable throughout the whole thing. Tip or trick or whatever, number 2, you don't need to justify your right to be alive. We're all thinking, breathing human creatures. We exist. Therefore, we have a right to exist. You don't have to justify your life to anybody. Just be you and do your thing. Try not to hurt anybody, but just live your life. And don't feel guilty that you're alive while somebody else isn't, I guess is the best way to frame that one. Another one. Set small, achievable goals. And that's important. I found, at least with myself, if I've got 10 or 15 tasks that I need to do, I just feel overwhelmed and I don't do any of them. But if you take them one at a time in small little chunks, that's your best way to do it. And even better, break each one down into smaller steps. So if you have to renovate the room or something, what are you doing? Are you painting? Are you changing the flooring? Are you changing the lighting? Do one thing at a time instead of just realizing that, I got to do all these things. That's too much and you won't get started. So set a small achievable goal, break it down into chunks. That's tip number 3. Number 4, look for happiness everywhere. And that's a difficult one, especially in this day and age, because there are so many unhappy people out there, full of complaints and misery and all kinds of stuff. So just look for happiness anywhere that you can find it. Is there a beautiful sunrise this morning? That'll make you happy. Just think of that. Have that in your thoughts. And similar to this, go for a happiness walk. Just walk through your neighborhood without any intention of a goal or whatever, and just be happy that you're alive. And I could probably expand on this one, but I'm so tired that I can't actually think of any more ideas. But happiness can be found anywhere and everywhere. So just look for it. You'll find it. It's not that hard to find.
Hey, podcast fans, Spotify is making it easy for you to stream this podcast and many others like it on your mobile device, desktop app, and smart speaker. Open the app on your mobile device or desktop, click on the browser channel, then click on the podcast section. You'll be able to stay thoroughly entertained during your commute to work, your drive home, and your downtime, thanks to Spotify.
Okay, let's see. I think we're on number 5. This one is form a long list of values. So what is important to you? It can be achievement or family. It can be acquiring money. Or maybe it's your spirituality or religious side. It could be your creativity. It could be your community. It could be a million different things. But if you don't know what you value, you can't appreciate it and work on those things. So if family is your number 1 value, focus on the family. If spirituality is your number 1 priority or your most important value, then maybe find a religious group. That's spirituality and religion are 2 different things, but I'm going to use them interchangeably. Maybe go on a Buddhist retreat, start meditating, something. Whatever your values are, focus on those and make them your priorities. And that way you'll have a happier, healthier life, and you'll have, I guess, a goal or some kind of a direction. And there's definitely nothing wrong with that. I guess also with that, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sixth tip, trick, rule, guidepost, whatever, is identify your strengths. What are you good at? Do you want to improve your strengths? Do you want to find one of your weaknesses and make that a strength? At a job I had, they didn't call it a weakness. They called it an area of opportunity, which basically means that this is something that you need to focus on. This is your area, so you have an opportunity to strengthen that part of you. Just reframing things seems to go a long way to helping your mindset, I think. It's worked for me, and maybe it can work for you too. All right, so let's see what we got here. I've got 4 more. What's that? 8, 9, 10, 11 or something? I don't know. Anyway, this is from Robert J. Sawyer from 2015. And let me just go to my camera roll here because I actually took a screenshot of my Facebook memories from, let's see, this was January 14th. And so 7 years ago, January 14th, 2015, Robert J. Sawyer, who happens to be one of my favorite authors, posted rules for living a better and happier life that seem sensible to me. And I shared it, so that was in my memories. So the first one, make amends. So I guess apologize or amend your relationships with people. He doesn't really actually say anything more about it, but that's what I would say. Make amends, fix your relationships, do that kind of thing. Number 2 in this thing is accept apologies. So you apologize, you accept apologies, and that's a good rule. Number 3, don't discard people. Well, that's a tough one because some people just need to go, but don't get rid of people willy-nilly because you never know who you'll need in your life. And his 4th one here is just one word, care. So that is Robert J. Sawyer's rules for living a better and happier life that seem sensible to him and also seem sensible to me and hopefully to you guys out there in podcast land as well. Now, speaking of being out there in podcast land, as you all know, the Soul Forge podcast is on the ESO network, your station for all things geek. Of course, Soul Forge is the non-geeky podcast on the network, although I do throw in the occasional geeky thing here and there, but I have to play a promo for another podcast on the network, and this week it is the Flopcast. So take a listen to this, and I'll be right back.
Hey, you know how you don't have any friends? It's fine.
The Flopcast will be your friend.
Your weird podcast friend.
Join us on the Flopcast every week for a silly conversation about cartoons, music,
Comic books.
chickens,
And obscure 80s pop culture trivia that no one
literally no one.
could possibly care about.
Find us at flopcast.net.
And on the ESO network.
It'll be our little secret.
Okay, how was that? Was that a great podcast promo? I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm going to listen to it when I edit the podcast later today or tomorrow. So there you go. So let's go back to the list. And the next one is identify areas you want to focus on. So that's similar to identifying your strengths and forming a long list of values. But this is more identifying those specific areas, focus on them, figure out what they are, and just do that. And then you'll shore up that weak part of yourself or strengthen a part that's not as strong as you want it to be. Similar to the other ones that I mentioned, but it's its own tip or trick. Don't chase success. And that seems to me to be pretty important because, don't chase success because you need to let success find you as you focus on what you're focusing on your ideas, your ideals, your dreams, your vision, that kind of thing. And much like forcing things to happen, I've found in my own life, if you force something to happen, it's going to break. So don't chase success because you'll always be chasing it. Just do what you need to do in your own life and you'll find success. And you can always redefine what success is. Is it having $1,000 in your bank? Is it having $1 million? Is it having 10,000 followers on Instagram? Your success is up to you. So don't chase it. Just focus on what you're doing and the success will eventually find you. And it might not, but does it matter? Maybe. We don't know. Only you can define that yourself. So there you go. Next tip, get more sleep. And I think that's something we can all agree on. Last night I slept like crap. I tossed and turned the entire time. I'm absolutely freaking exhausted today. And I couldn't even nap this afternoon. I tried. I couldn't do it. Sleep is elusive for me a lot of the time. I've got that CPAP machine and I can't even wear it all night because it drives me crazy. So sleep is a priority, but much like success, I'm chasing sleep and it's not finding me. So whatever you can do to get more sleep, do that, because you'll get rested, your thoughts will be more sharp and focused and clear, and it's just important for your body to heal and rest up. So get more sleep. And then, of course, there is the no complaining rule. Don't complain, because, as they say, if you complain and you're negative, there's going to be more negativity in your life, because what you focus on is what you get. So don't complain. And the way I have reframed that myself is, I don't say that I'm complaining. I am making observations about life. Like, I'll say, geez, it's really frickin' cold outside. And that's not a complaint. That's a mere observation of the temperature. So that's what I do. Instead of complaining, I'll just kind of, well, it's not really complaining. It's more just making a statement about what's actually happening out there. And you can do that for all kinds of things. And if I had gotten more sleep, like the previous rule had said, I could think of more examples. But basically, don't complain, and you'll be happier. Here's something else, and I need to do this as well. Read more books and watch less TV. I love reading books. I love diving into different worlds, learning new things, whether it's fiction or non-fiction. I'm more of a fiction kind of guy, historical fiction or science fiction, but I like the occasional, I guess you wouldn't call it a documentary because it's not a television show, but, like real stuff, I guess. History and that kind of thing. I don't focus on that too much, but anyway, give your brain a workout by reading. Because when you're watching TV, you're mostly passive and you're just, I don't know, are you wasting your time? Not necessarily, because you might enjoy it. And I watch a lot of stuff that I love, but I need to read more books. I haven't felt like it because of the depression and the exhaustion, but I read a whole chapter last night and that was pretty good. It took me everything to get through it, but I did it. So there's that. What else we got? Get to instead of have to. I guess there's a lot of reframing going on in this list. But basically, instead of saying, oh, I have to go to work, say, oh, I get to go to work today. That means I get to pay the bills and buy food and see my friends and my colleagues and all that stuff. So if you think of life as a gift instead of an obligation, you're automatically 10 times happier. Maybe 15. Who knows? Don't gossip or feed into energy vampires or focus on regrets. So all that negative stuff, gossip is never good because you're wasting your time. Energy vampires are just sucking the life out of you and making you more tired. And if you just focus on your regrets all the time, you have more negativity, and you want to think of positive things and things you're happy about or proud of or that kind of thing. So don't focus on the past. Focus on the present, focus on the near future, and just get rid of those energy vampires. Now that kind of contradicts the other rule of not discarding people, but these aren't really rules. They're more tips and tricks and guides. So if you need to get rid of people, you need to get rid of people, especially the energy vampires. All right, another one. Eat foods that are from plants and trees, and eat less processed / manufactured foods made in plants, like factory plants, not actual plants that grow in the ground, that kind of thing. What was that? There's a 7-word phrase, I guess, that some famous guy said. It's something like, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. So yeah, that's what it was. And I think I've said it before in a previous episode. So eat more natural stuff, because that's what our bodies were designed for. So you'll be more healthy and happy and less bad chemicals and stuff in your system, which is definitely good, and it'll probably help you sleep better too. Here's another rule. I think this is new rule number 18 or 19. I didn't write the numbers down, but whatever. Smile and laugh more, because if you do that, your body produces those endorphins, and even if you're faking the smiling and the laughter, your brain doesn't know that you're faking it. It's just a response that your body is producing. So if you smile and laugh more, you'll automatically be more happy. I haven't actually tried that, but when I do smile or laugh, I do feel happier. So it must be a thing.
So I wanted to remind you once again that you can listen to this show and other podcasts on Spotify. And now it's easier than ever. Just open the app on your mobile device or desktop, click on Browse, and then click on the podcast section. It works on your computer, your phone, your smart speaker system, whatever you want to use. So stay connected to your favorite podcasts and never miss an episode using Spotify.
3 rules left. So I guess this is 19. 20, no, or 20, whatever. I can't do math. That was my worst subject in school, so there you go. And I could probably reframe that and saying it was not my best subject. There you go. That wasn't my worst subject. It was not my best subject. So this third last rule is meditate. And I did that years and years ago for a few months, and I fell out of it, but I really got to get back into it. Because if you meditate, you focus on your breathing, you center your body, you get all those chemicals in your system that you need, the happy and centered stuff. And I could have looked this up more and said what meditation actually does for you. But I do know they say to meditate for about 20 minutes a day. Some people do it for 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night. Some people do it in 5-minute increments several times throughout the day. Some people do it for like a whole 40 minutes. It just depends on what you've worked up to. So try meditation, maybe yoga. I don't know. But one day I'll get back into it, I hope. And it's just supposed to make you feel better. So speaking of feeling better about yourself and your community, the second last rule, or the penultimate rule, to use a $10 word, is love, serve, and care. So they always say that if you give of yourself and you help out your community, you automatically feel that much better, because the meaning of life is to serve others. Is that true? I don't know, but it makes a certain amount of sense. So love, serve, and care. It helps you. It helps the people you're loving and serving and caring. And it makes the world a better place. So that makes sense. And the final rule, the ultimate rule, fix your finances. Get your banking in order. Save for retirement. Do all that kind of stuff. Because if your finances are fixed up, if you have a retirement goal, if you've got a good amount of money in the bank, then you have less worry. You can buy better food that's not processed. You have more time to love, serve, and care. You can do all the things. You can get more sleep because you're not worried. You can focus on your strength. You can do all those things. And once again, you don't need to justify your right to be alive. So whether you fix your finances or not, it's up to you. Not everybody can do it. Start slowly. Put $1 a week away if that's all you can do. Do the bare minimum that you can until you can do more. That's what they always say. Do what you can until you can do more. And that makes a certain amount of sense to me. So there you go. So those are the 22 tips, tricks, rules, guideposts for making 2022 yours. I said it right this time. It's 2022. And I guess that's this week's episode. I just got distracted with a notification on my phone saying that somebody favorited one of my items in my Etsy shop, and that is me fixing my finances. As many of you know, I have been a collector of all kinds of different things for pretty much all my life, but basically for 30 years. I really started getting into it back in 1992 when Playmates Toys started making Star Trek action figures, and I had to have as many as I could. I had to have more than my friend, and it started this collecting journey, and now I've got tote upon tote of action figures and Hallmark Star Trek ornaments and pop vinyls and model kits and you name it, and I've probably got it. so many things. They're all in totes because I've never had enough room to display it all. So this past summer I opened up an Etsy shop and I've started listing things and selling things off to make more room. I've been saving up the money I was thinking I was going to go on a fancy trip because I've never really gone on an international flight and I've always wanted to see the world. But then I was thinking, because I did that whole survival prepping episode there a few months ago, maybe I'll save that money to buy some land and build an off-grid cabin so when the world does fall apart, then I have somewhere to go. But wouldn't you know it, it's the winter time and apparently I'm rough on my vehicles, and I hit a snowbank the other day and it wrecked my bumper and it also wrecked the washer fluid reservoir jug and everything leaked out, and also my, what they call it, they called it the wiper cowl, you know, the thing where your wiper blades go and it always gets covered in snow. Well, I guess I was scraping the ice out too hard and I damaged that because everything's made so cheap these days. So there, my car's at the shop right now. The washer bottles are out of stock in Canada, but oh my God, I've got a fortune to pay for the repairs. So money that I make from Etsy was supposed to go towards a fancy trip or an off-grid cabin, but now it's going to vehicle repairs because it's always impossible to get ahead. And see, that's being negative. So if you reframe it, I could just say the fact that I sold some action figures is allowing me to pay for the damages to the car. So there you go. You always have to turn it around and make it better. But that's my story. Rusted Robot Toys on Etsy if you'd like to buy some action figures or vintage items. There's all kinds of stuff on there right now. Oh, that's what I wanted to tell you guys as well. Next week, there will not be an episode because this coming Saturday, I am going to visit family in Sault Ste. Marie for about a week because I'm leaving just in a couple days. I have no time to do another episode for next week, so I won't be doing that. But I will be bringing my podcast recording equipment and hope to get a pile of recordings from the various people there. It might not happen. It might. So we'll see. But once again, no new episode next week. But thanks for coming by the Soul Forge and listening to my ramblings and my rules or my guidelines or my whatever I'm calling this stuff. I would hope and I would appreciate if you could share all the links to the podcast. Tell your friends about it. Let people know. What else? I guess that's really about it. Just take care of yourself and each other. Leave a 5-star review. Join the YouTube page. Maybe check out the Etsy shop. Tell a friend about the vintage toys. But until next time, all of you take care. And remember, even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Soul Forge podcast. Your support is greatly appreciated, and we hope you'll tune in again next time. Remember that you can visit soulforgepodcast.com for all of our social media links, and don't forget to share the show with everyone you know. The Soul Forge podcast is your best source for living your best life.
Think about it.
Computer subspace transmission to Starfleet Command from Enterprise. Stardate 45481.4. It's a single blast. Source unknown. Lieutenant Worf checks weapon systems. Captain Picard orders full shields from Lieutenant LaForge in engineering. Suddenly there is an alien presence on the ship. It's one of the Borg, a hostile robotic life form. Commander Riker returns phaser fire.
Star Trek: The Next Generation action figures from Playmates.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.